All right, it's Wednesday. Um, so on Monday we started Unit 4 and we worked on 4.2, the lights off project, where we had this little light bulb bouncing around and we did it. And we started 4.3 and then we're just going to work on that today. And so all we're going to do is work on 4.3 today, this lights off project. So again, hopefully you started that last class. You have to, and again, this takes a little work. You have to download a different background image and maybe some different sprites here, set things up. Um, we talked about design thinking a little bit and how we'd iterate through this, think about what we do, brainstorm ideas, um, test it out and try it out. Um, so we kind of left off in what I would call iteration 2, where we're trying to prototype this in App Inventor. So again, you should run App Inventor. There's a link to it here, but I usually just Google App Inventor and go to MIT and create apps. And I had AI generate a bird feeder picture, and then I tried to grab some pictures, some sprites of squirrels or chipmunks. Yeah, I think I want maybe a bird one too, for this. Um, so work on that a little bit, refine. What is your idea that you're trying to do? Again, you can do basically you do want a whack-a-mole kind of game, something with moving sprites that you would click on here. You could try out different things for that and for some theme that you want here. Um, and then we're going to add some new features in a little bit. So I'm going to let you work on that for a while. And then if you get ahead or if you're done with that part, look at iteration 3. So we want to add a score feature where we're keeping track of the user's score when they click on something. So you might get more points or less points there. We want to add a max score, so it'll stop at some point, and a reset button to restart the game here for this. And then there's a bunch of enhancements you can do, and you have to do a couple of these enhancements for the reflections here. So one is to keep track of the number of misses here. Another is to add multiple sprites and some code, some better abstractions for that. And add another sprite or two, a good or a bad sprite. Maybe change the speed when maybe a player reaches a certain score. I grew up playing a game called Space Invaders, where you had these little space invaders going across the screen, and then you got destroyed more and more of them there, faster and faster there. So when they were just down to one, it was going really fast, and that made the game more interesting there. So think of that. Again, you don't have to do all of the enhancements, but you have to do some of them. So I'm going to let you work on this a little bit, and then I'll break in and I'll walk you through scoring if you haven't done scoring, and we'll walk through that in just a little bit. Questions? Okay, I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about scores and adding a score here. So again, what it's suggesting here, oops, I went to 4.2. Let me go back to 4.2. And is we work on some scoring stuff here and modify the score. And I don't know if you did that in the original one, but we want to just talk about how to do it here. So in my designer mode, I've got my app here. I have a label at the bottom. If you don't, you can add one. So I'm going to add a label at the bottom here. I'm going to change that, rename it to be the score. So I know what it is here. Right now, I just had some text there. I want to have it actually say things like score equals or score colon maybe, and then display the score. And I'm going to have it to be 0 to start with here. I know I'm going to need a reset button. So I'm actually, since I'm here, adding a reset button to this also for now. Okay, so I've added my score thing. Now I've got this running. My little squirrel is jumping around. When I touch the block, I'm playing my sound here. Now I want to keep track of my score. I'm going to need a variable to do that. So I'm going to add initialize the global variable for the score. And then I can add and subtract and display that. So when we want to do something like that, keep track of something, we need a variable generally to do that. And the only thing we have these global variables we put in there. I'm going to set it equal to 0 to start. Now, when they touch the sprite, I'm going to add 1 to the score. So I'm going to go into here and well, I first have to set the score. So I can go into here and get a set score to, and then I'm going to get in math, I'm going to get an add block. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add 1. I'm going to grab the 0 and change it to a 1. So what do I have to do? I have to find the existing score and add 1 to it. So up here under the score, I can get the score. I can add 1 to it, and then where do I want to save that back into the score? So I'm going to set the score to the old score plus 1. And this should add 1 to the score each time. I also may want to update the display. So in my label, my score label, I'm going to set the text there. Set it, and I'm just going to set it to the score. So it should show the score. Then I can try to run that and see how that works. I can always tweak it and make it better, but that's a good start for how to do scores. So have a score variable, add to it. And again, if it's a bad sprite, you can subtract to it if you want there. If you have some really bonus things, you can add more than 1 to it there. So there are different amounts you can add or subtract amounts. You'd maybe have your this image sprite if you have different sprites out there, you do different things. So I'm just gonna run this and see how let's just try this out. Oops. So like right now, every time I hit it, it adds 1 to the score, but erase the word score on there. So again, I might want, rather than just saying 2, 3, 4, I might want to change that there. So I'm going to do it. Also, I noticed that I'm just putting the sprite at the very bottom and I want it to jump around randomly. I forgot to do that. So again, here when I'm changing the label of score, under text, you can join some text together. So that's how we concatenate strings together. So I'm going to want to join the word score. I want to display score, colon, and then the actual score. So I think I can do that. So again, so yeah, to get the score on the screen, I added this label here and changed it. And then if I click on these things, it should add to the score. So for iteration 3, we want to add the scores, and then we want to try to do some winning score. So again, we want to stop the game at some point when they get to some winning score. So right now I got this set up so that when I click on something, the score goes up here. That's not working right now. Well, my score should be going up here. But at some point, I want to check if the score hits some maximum. Maybe when I get to 10 points or 100 points or whatever, I want to quit there. So we want to do that. Now, what does it mean by quit? We don't want the game necessarily to end. We want it to maybe display a win or something like that. Now, there's one, you could change the score display to just say you win. That would be one way. There's also a notifier where you can pop up things. So back in Designer, here you can pop up, there's this little notifier, and you can pop up a little message that says you win. So you can try that for this. You can decide what you want to do as far as the win goes there. And you also want maybe to stop your sprites from moving around here. So maybe, how do you want to control that one when they're moving around here? Do you want to change, so maybe every time the timer goes click, I don't always move them. I will check something, if some flag is set or if the score is some value or something like that. So see if you can figure out how you can change this so that at some point, you say they win, and we congratulate the user for reaching a certain score, and we kind of try to stop everything. And then we want a reset button that'll start the game all over again. So see if you can add those in here. Let's talk a little bit about how to do this. So I have two sprites bouncing around here. I click on them, and I add one to the score here. Let's say I have some maximum score I want to do. What do I want to do? So I want to ask, well, where do I want to check that? Well, when my score increases, I want to check if it reaches a certain level. So again, when I touch my sprite, I add one to the score, I update the score. That would be a good point to see if I'm going to, if I'm reached the max. So I can look under control, and there's an if statement. I think I'm going to use that. I can always add an else. I can go here and add an else if I need to, but I'm just going to do an if to start with. So what am I going to do? I'm going to check if the score, maybe they have to get 5. I'm going to make a small number to start with, so I'm testing it out. So for my check here, I'm going to say if the high score is, if it's more than 5, we're going to say you win or something like that. So I'm going to go back here and say under logic, I can do, now I'm going to do this equal because I can always change it to greater than or less than or whatever. Oops, not that. Yeah, I don't want that. I want a math. That's a Boolean equal. I want a math equals here, the blue one. So if I'm going to just say if the score is greater than, so I'm going to get the score, put it down here, and maybe check if it's greater than 5. Where'd my number go? There. So if my score is greater than 5 here, I'm going to maybe do greater than equal. So once I get 5, they won. What I want to do, I want to say they won. So I'm going to change the score text to just say you won to start with. So if I have that set up and I hit my, get some more points, 4 points, 5 points, it'll say I won here. Now I can actually get more points if I want, and the squirrel is still moving around. It's not perfect, but again, at least it says I won here. Now, if I want the squirrels or the sprites to stop moving around, there's a couple of things I could do. I could check up here under the clock timer. I could put an if then, but I have this clock timer. You can do stuff with the clock timer. So a couple of things I could do if I look at the clock timer, here's my clock timer. I can set things like, if I scroll all the way down, I can set the time interval. So I can make it so like maybe if we set it to 0, it won't tick at all. I can also enable or disable it. There's this set enable. So I can actually set it to enable or disable or set enable to false there. So if I do that, that'll stop my timer. I just have to, it has to be set to a true false value, and those are under logic. So I can say set it to false. So then if I win, if I click this and win, it'll say you won and everything will stop. And then I might want a reset button to undo these two things here. So again, I might want to add my reset button. So when I click on the reset button, I'm actually going to duplicate these here. So I remember to do both of those. So I'm going to set the timer enabled to true. And then rather than saying 1, I'm actually going to copy this where I set the score, the original time. And I'm just going to say set the score to 0 to start again. Well, actually, I can leave it there. Set it to score, but I also want to set the score variable back to 0. So when I hit reset, I want to set the score to 0. Now there's different ways of doing this. I've seen some nice creative ways of doing this, but this is a nice simple way. Set the score to 0, set my display back to the score, and set the timer to true again. So now if it reset, it should start moving things around here, and I can start again. When I get up to 5, it'll say I won, everything freezes until I hit reset, and then things will start moving around again. For your reflections for this, you want to talk a little bit about design thinking here. Describe each of the enhancements that you implemented here. And we've done some, but there are other ones that you should look at. Abstraction. Can you make methods for this? Do you have? I have multiple sprites moving around there. Keep track of the number of misses, or every time you miss, subtract one. See if you can figure that out. So there are some enhancements you can do. And so each enhancement, describe and provide a screenshot of it, and then describe what you do for your reset here and what that does. They want you to actually put the reset stuff in a method here. So you can put this in a procedure to reset things and call it multiple places if you want. So, okay. All right, this is all we're working on today. See how you do. Yeah, this is just week 1. So we'll be working on this. On Friday, we'll move on to